Welcome to the Civil War Digital Digest. I'm Will. Today we have Jackie Jacobs, the founding partner of Past Reflections Reproductions, with us, and we're going to talk a little bit about women's winter headwear. Jackie, thanks for coming out and being with us today.
Thank you for asking me, Will.
What are we looking at, Jackie?
Well, right now we're looking at a collection of original and reproduction headwear. This is a pumpkin bonnet that's wrong side out. I want to show this to everybody. The pumpkin bonnet is probably one of the most collected of the winter hoods.
Now tell me about the name pumpkin bonnet.
It kind of looks like a pumpkin. I mean, it has the striations that a pumpkin would have, and it's kind of fat and puffy when it's on your head.
Is that a name that's from our time, or is that something a lady from the 1860s would recognize?
It's probably something that they would recognize. The construction of this bonnet is kind of unique. It's constructed flat. It's completely hand-stitched. You can see all the hand stitches in there. They would run the cording in there and then draw the bonnet up to fit the person. And that's the way that we've constructed our pumpkin bonnet pattern, is so that you can do that. This is a silk and cotton twill. You have your silk taffeta on the front of the bonnet. You have your back of the bonnet there. It is a silk twill on the outside. It's quilted on the back. It was probably a powder blue, but with age and probably the wool rovings that are inside, it probably still has some lanolin in there, so it probably bled through to the outside. It kind of gives it a dusty, dirty look. But if you look in the creases of it, you can see it has a very light powder blue, and it has the little blue silk bows on it as well. This one that's sitting next to it is a quilted hood, and it's a little bit of a different design. It has more flatness through here, but it's all hand quilted on the back. This one, if you look at the inside, I'll try to open it so you can see it. It has silk toward the front, and then it has a silk and cotton twill in the back. It has 2 tags on it, as you notice. I did not take the tags off. When I purchased this, it had the provenance for this bonnet. It was from the 1830s, and it was worn for sleigh riding. So that's kind of a unique thing.
Great. Well, I see headwear that's obviously adult, but right here, this looks like headwear that does not belong on an adult.
This is children's headwear, actually more into the infant headwear. This little pumpkin bonnet right here, and then we have the little hood right here that mimics the brown silk bonnet over there. This is a reproduction of this particular bonnet. Because they didn't have central air or central heating, they had to heat their homes with fireplaces. So they would have cool spots in their house. So what they would do is they would make these little bonnets out of leftover silk or even cotton. I've seen them in cotton. I've also seen them in wool. And they would put them on their infants during the winter time to keep their heads warm. That particular pattern, the little girl's pattern, which is this one, and then the adult pattern, are all in our pumpkin bonnet.
All in one pattern. One.
Then we have our winter hoods, which are a little different than the pumpkin bonnets in the respect that they have a nice broad brim on them, and then they have the back right here. This one is quilted, and it's a little bit fancier. This one is a velvet with some silk ruching on it.
Are these both originals?
These are both originals. I want to show you the inside of this one. This one has got your silk twill on the front, and then it has a knitted section in the back that will allow for the warmth for the back of the head. Now, the difference between a pumpkin bonnet and a hood that I have noticed is that a hood will have a longer curtain or section down here that goes down onto the shoulders to keep the neck warm.
And so the curtain is the spot below where the bonnet would tie.
Below where under the ears, below where that would come under the chin. And this would come down onto your shoulders to keep your neck warm. Whereas the pumpkin bonnet, if you look at this one, it doesn't have a very long curtain. This one's got about the longest curtain of most of my pumpkin bonnets. If you notice, the blue one over there doesn't have a very large curtain on it at all.
So if somebody's making a choice purely based on warmth for a living history, if, for example, they might want to think about a hood over a pumpkin bonnet just for what it's going to do at the neckline.
Exactly. And the nice thing about it is that you can knit this section, or you can make it as quilting, like the silk one is. The silk one has the wadding, and it's quilted front to back, and it would keep you warm as well.
So when we talk about, we've talked about, obviously we see pattern here. We've talked a little bit about materials, construction. Are we talking hand sew, machine sew? What's appropriate and what's possible?
I would say 90% of my winter hoods and bonnets are hand sewn prior to the Civil War. After the Civil War, or mid-1860s, I have quite a few of them that are hand sewn and machine sewn, or totally machine sewn. This particular one is a combination of hand and machine sewing. And the interesting part is what is machine sewn is the ruching.
Great, and it doesn't always have to be sewing, of course. We've got one piece here that obviously is not sewn, rather it's knitted or crocheted.
This is a knitted cap. It's what they call a ladder stitch, and I believe that this one is probably for either an elderly lady or someone who is infirmed and they need to stay warm, similar to the infants, just to have a nice cap on their head.
So it's for houseware use rather than outdoors and traveling.
I would say, yes, I would say that it would be house, that you would wear this in the home. It would also, you could wrap the lappets around your neck a little bit to keep you warm also.
Great.
So,
I see we have a couple of photos laid out here. How easy is it to find winter wear in period photos?
it is very difficult to find the winter hoods in photographs, and I have a couple of assumptions on this, and mind you, they are assumptions. Part of it is, I think, the weather had a lot to do with it. You weren't taking images outdoors in the wintertime. You also, when you're looking at these hoods, you can see they come quite forward on your face. It would hide your face, and the photographers didn't like that. And there's an aspect of them is more of what I would consider a utility type of wear to keep you warm. You wouldn't be wearing these to actually dress up. You would be wearing these to keep yourself warm.
Great, thanks, Jackie. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Civil War Digital Digest. In the comments section or on our resource page, which are both linked below in the comments, we'll put a link over to Past Reflections reproductions and where you can find these patterns if you're interested. If you've enjoyed this episode, we'd appreciate if you'd hit like and subscribe to the Civil War Digital Digest. We'll see you next time.